Good evening. Happy first day of August. Finally, time flies.
Yeah, I know.
Literally.
Almost school time.
I mean, this watch could fly right now. Time flies so badly. And welcome to 1010, your top 10 news in 10 minutes. I'm Andy Hong.
And I'm Esther Park, and the most current news up to date. In 90 minutes, the 72-hour ceasefire failed between the Israel and Hamas. An Israel soldier was abducted by Palestinian militants during an attack in Gaza. The soldier is identified as Second Lieutenant Colonial. Colonel, Peter Lerner. Yeah. And a search is underway to rescue him. It is said that after a pause, that while the soldiers were decommissioning a tunnel, a militant emerged from the tunnel and detonated a suicide bomb. Even though the truce has to be made, it is posited that the destruction of the tunnels will continue.
Hopefully that conflict will be resolved soon. Yes, the Center of Disease Control has recently issued travel warnings for the Western African nations of Guinea, Sierra Leone, and Liberia, and rightly so. The nations are experiencing the most devastating Ebola outbreak in recent history. 1,323 people have been infected, and 729 of those cases have died, unfortunately. In a chart released by the World Health Organization, there's a clear increase in Ebola cases this particular year. However, there are also more survivors from the disease than any other year as well, which is some good news, although it's mostly bad news. Although there is no known cure for Ebola, health workers have tried and succeeded in some degree in Guinea to quarantine those who have been infected and slow down the disease enough so that it does not spread as well. That did not stop people back in the United States from fearing the worst, as two American health workers who have contracted the disease while working in Liberia were brought back home for further treatment. Fortunately, most experts are confident that the United States has the resources to keep the disease at bay should there be an outbreak.
Yeah, and hopefully, they could contain it well and not let it spread.
Hopefully it does not spread all across the world, because that's going to cause a lot of problems.
Yep. Also, it has been 12 days since the MH17 was bombed from the sky, where pieces of the airplane lay strewn all over the fields. Even though it's been quite a while, investigators haven't reached the site. On Wednesday, Ukrainian officials warned that there may be possible landmines near the site. Ukraine's National Security and Defense Council stated that the rebels have established defense around the crashed plane and also possible mines. Australia's Prime Minister stated that there are still 80 bodies still lying in the fields of eastern Ukraine. And actually, 4 senior investigators have recently arrived to examine the debris. Furthermore, the Ukraine tensions have prompted Cold War fears. Many U.S. politicians have stated that Putin has returned to the Cold War mentality.
Oh, well, the Cold War. Let's not go back to that, shall we?
Yes.
Yeah, that wasn't a happy time.
Mm-hmm.
Although we weren't alive back then. I think I know that much. Well, in this world of information and surveillance, another spying scandal broke yesterday when it was discovered that the Central Intelligence Agency had spied on a U.S. Senate committee, which was, according to the New York Times, preparing a report to criticize the agency's detention and interrogation programs of terrorists. American intelligence agencies have taken a lot of heat recently, not only through the Edward Snowden business with the NSA's mass surveillance programs both in the United States and outside, but also when the NSA spied German political figures, including Chancellor Angela Merkel. In light of this most recent scandal, the senators were none too happy about the CIA's actions and called for the agency's officers to be held accountable for their violations.
And also, a downtown district of the southern Taiwanese city was ripped apart on Thursday before midnight by a series of explosions that killed at least 25 people and injured hundreds. The bombing, which was caused by an underground gas leak, left a 2-meter trench in the street and sent fires leaping into the air in the district. The authorities stated that several petrochemical factories in the area may actually have been one of the factors that caused the explosion. Even though it was a devastating scene, the government was able to send action quickly and send hundreds of troops to assist in the search and rescue efforts.
It's amazing how many different things can blow up, like petrol, and back then it was Chernobyl. There was also, ammonium fertilizer explosion in Texas. And in Los Angeles, the streets exploded with water on Wednesday when a water main break of unprecedented scale spewed 8 million gallons of water out into the streets. The water did most damage to the UCLA campus, which was unfortunately nearby, damaging one of the newly renovated basketball courts. The property damage is of much less concern than the fact that this catastrophic event just had to happen in one of the more severe droughts in California's history and the worst drought in the history of the city of Los Angeles. LA City Councilman Paul Koretz asked everybody to try harder to conserve water. Part of the problem was that the pipe was 93 years old. Los Angeles has gone through several infrastructure improvement projects, but this recent accident is a clear indicator that more needs to be done.
Yeah, and I agree. Like, these days we don't have any rain, even during the summer.
The infrastructure is the problem. Last time I went to LAX, they were doing another bridge demolition project. So.
Oh, wow. All right, and then the House on Wednesday approved a highly contentious lawsuit against President Obama over his alleged abuse of executive power. The House backed the lawsuit resolution on a vote of 225 to 201, with all Democrats opposed. The Republicans say that the lawsuit was essential to keep the president in constitutional check. The Democrats branded the effort a political charade aimed at stirring up GOP voters for this fall's congressional election. They also say that it was an effort by top Republicans to mollify conservatives who want Obama to be impeached. The lawsuit will focus on how Obama has carried out his health care overhaul. It seemed like this chaos is not only internationally, but also domestically.
A lot of times we forget how inefficient Congress is.
Yes.
Well, John Kerry, as some of you may know, is currently visiting India to meet with the new Indian Prime Minister, Narendra Modi, to try to improve Indo-American relations, as India is a really rising power in Southern Asia. Although the state of democracy in India has dramatically improved over the past decades, improvements in infrastructure have been stagnant for many Indians. Monsoon rains are known to cause damage throughout India when the rainy season arrives, but a recent landslide in the remote village of Malin, took everybody by surprise when it covered the entire settlement. Only 8 survivors have been recovered.
Oh, there's many disasters these days. And also, this day in history in 1961, Six Flags over Texas, the first park of the chains of Six Flags, opens. It took over 1 year to complete and costed $10 million. They had a variety of rides, from the first mine rides to the first 360-degree roller coasters. One of the Six Flags' unique aspects was that the theme park was based on the history of Texas. The park's rides and attractions were grouped into 6 theme sections that represent the cultures of the government and enable visitors to basically experience the culture in that area.
In light of the new recent California Six Flags accident, there also has to be a concern for safety as well. But for today's science news, as science progressed through the centuries, humankind's perception of its place in the universe changed as well. Only recently did we realize that we are far from being the center of space and time, and another study has revealed even more details to humble you. There have been many speculations about the size of the Milky Way, our home galaxy, relative to our neighbor galaxies. As it turns out, an international group of astronomers released an astonishingly precise and comprehensive calculation in the monthly notices of the Royal Astronomical Society, indicating that Milky Way is only about half the size of our nearest neighbor's galaxy, Andromeda. But don't feel too insignificant, because the universe expands in all directions from all points. Each one of you is, in fact, the center of the universe. You. You're all the center of the universe. Yay. This was 1010 News. As always, I'm Andy Hong.
And I'm Esther Park. We'll see you next week.